the Angels are my sleeper team. Mike Trout is back. Soler is on the team. Taylor Ward is another year down. Joe's over there laughing.
Hey, I don't disagree
have-
with you, Nathan. I don't disagree at all.
Drive into left! At the wall! It's gone! Tie game!
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Throwing Partners podcast. It's Kirby, Joe, and Nate here, coming to you on a Sunday night. Tonight, we're going to be giving our preview over the American League. We're going to talk about each division and how we see the American League playing out into the postseason. So kicking off tonight, which division do we want to start with? Do we want to start with the West, Central, or the East?
We can go East, Central, West.
Let's do it. I was hoping you were going to say that order. So Joe and Nate, I'll let you give your predictions on how you think the AL East is going to shake out, who you think the division winner is going to be, and so on.
So I'll go first. And I guess, if you were following our podcast and you watched last week's episode, I think you kind of know where we're going to go with our predictions. Based on the moves that they made this offseason, I really do think that the Boston Red Sox can win the AL East. Now, I think the AL East might be the most competitive division in baseball, right alongside the NL East. I do think it will be a dogfight. I don't think that New York is going to go, down quietly. They are the defending AL champs. But I think Baltimore will put up a good fight. I just don't believe that either one of those teams really did a good job of addressing any of the issues they had going into the offseason. I mean, the Yankees' lack of hitting depth, and their question marks in their rotation leave a lot to be desired. And then, Baltimore not really addressing their starting pitching woes. At the same time that Boston, got Alex Bregman and made the trade for Michael Kopech. I think, they really did a good job over the offseason. So I think that they will take the division. Now, I think, like I said, it'll be a dogfight for that top spot. But, I see the Orioles probably taking that second spot, the Yankees coming in third, and then the Rays. I think the Rays will be good, no doubt. But I just think that the division is too top heavy. And then I do see the Blue Jays coming in last in the division, just because of the firepower that the top three teams have.
Well, I don't disagree, Joe, and I do have the Red Sox picked to win that division. I like what they've got going on in camp. I like that they have a lot of really good prospects that are basically on the verge of making the team coming out of spring training and whatnot as well. I have mixed feelings about the Orioles, though. We kind of talked about this in our last podcast with the winners and losers of the offseason, because I actually think there's a scenario where they finish last in the division. The Rays always find guys that throw 98 miles an hour with movement. They develop guys extremely well. They get the best out of guys. Every guy that goes there seems to just play better. They're just a poor man's Dodgers, honestly. And to me, I can honestly see a scenario where every team in this division is at 500 or better. Not saying that they're going to win 100 to 105 games or anything like that, but I can see all of those teams at least being 500, especially if they're all fairly healthy. Because the Blue Jays still have a lot of talent, even though they're not really that great. Between Vladdy Jr., Bichette's in a contract year, Santander, George Springer, the list goes on and on for the Blue Jays. And then their rotation isn't horrible either. But I'm going to go with the Red Sox as the winner. And then I think you draw a name out of the hat for second, a name out of the hat for third, fourth, and fifth, and it wouldn't surprise me. I just think overall they did the most to improve their team in areas that they actually needed it. And I think that overall, I think that they've got some really good vibes going. We know that the Yankees can't develop anybody at all, ever. So they have nobody coming up. There's one Twitter account. All they've been doing lately is posting how horrible Jason Dominguez is in left field, and quite frankly, it's funny. He's awful out there. I swear to God, I could make better throws from left field than he could, and I'm a 32-year-old fat guy. His arm looks horrible out there. He is bound and determined to be the next Giancarlo Stanton. So I think overall, I really do like the Red Sox. I don't know about you. What do you think, Nathan?
Yeah, I no objections here. I think it's going to be clear as day that the Red Sox are taking this all the way. My predictions for second and third, I think, are a little different than Joe's. I think they more align with yours, Kirby. I think second, I think the Yankees might be there just sheer determination. Baltimore, like you said, they have not really addressed anything that they needed. Their pitching is still not that great. Their offense, they lost a big piece of their offense, and it went to a division rival, which I really think is going to be there for third. I think it will be Boston, New York, and then Toronto. I think Toronto might be fighting for a spot in the playoffs. Although they need a whole bunch of things to click. They need people to stay healthy. They need people to have good years. Bo had a really bad year last year. But if they put it all together, who knows? We could have some Canadian magic this year. And then I think Tampa is going to be fighting with Baltimore there for the fourth spot. I don't know. I don't see Baltimore having an incredible season like they've had the last 2 years. So I think Boston, New York, Toronto, and then we're fighting for the best of the fourth between those last two.
You know, to me, it just seems like the Blue Jays were in such a window to, possibly be a World Series contender. But to me, it's almost like they got old really quickly. And right now, it looks like that. That, like we were talking about, they could very easily. They could get last. I mean, they could get second or third. I mean, it all really depends on their health, because they obviously have a lot of talent, but. I mean, honestly, that's all of these teams in this division, because if Garrett Crochet goes out on opening day and blows his arm out, the Red Sox are no longer the favorite to win the division. It automatically goes back to
That's very true.
If Garrett Cole goes out on opening day and blows out his arm, suddenly that rotation looks even worse because Luis Gil just went down. The Orioles already have no pitching, so if Grayson Rodriguez goes out on opening day and blows his arm out, they're really screwed. And the Rays, once again, it's like, you've got McClanahan coming back, but I mean, what is he going to look like? I'm not really sure. So I think that division is going to be very good and very competitive. I don't think that the winner wins more than maybe 92, 94 games tops, because all of those teams have some serious holes, whether it's their lineup or their rotation or their pen. So I'm going to say that the Red Sox still win the division, but I'm going to say that they top out at about 92 wins or so. Any further discussion on the AL East?
I would just like to make a correction. I named the wrong former White Sox pitcher. They traded for Garrett Crochet, not Michael Kopech over the offseason. So,
Yes.
I knew what you were saying.
Yeah. So I guess, okay, looking at the Fangraphs projection, I think that this is a pretty interesting prediction coming up. For the AL Central, they show the Guardians. No, sorry. No, I was looking at 2024. They show the Twins winning 83 games and leading the division. And that kind of blows my mind. Especially, having both the Tigers and the Royals coming off the seasons that they both had. And, while they didn't make, improvements that both teams would have liked to have made, I don't think that the Guardians really made any additions either. So, I find that division kind of interesting, and I'd kind of like to hear your opinion, Nate, as the resident AL Central guy.
Yeah. I mean, The only notable acquisition that they made off the top of my head, and I could be completely wrong because I really don't give a damn about them, is Harrison Bader. And really, I mean, he puts a spot in the outfield, but he's not gonna move the needle on their lineup at all. Yeah, looking at Fangraphs, I'm very interested by this as well. I think the Royals put something very good together last year, and I think this year they did nothing but improved it. They moved some pieces and got India at second base. I think this is the perfect opportunity for him to have a bounce back year, have a rookie of the year type of year again, and make an impact with a team. Witt's going to keep doing his thing. He's going to have another great year. For whatever reason, they can just put it together with their outfielders. I think they have Isbell and Melendez out there sharing time. Salvi is just going to be Salvi. Pasquantino has been increasingly better the past few years. So while I see my team being in there for the ride again, I don't see the Twins making this type of move. I think we're going to be looking at the Guardians at the top again, unfortunately. And depending on what Bazana does in the first couple weeks of the year, he could be there taking Jimenez's spot like it's nothing. And then they're back to just having this incredibly stacked lineup at their cheater field with the wind tunnels blowing out to right field, and they're running away with our division. And the Tigers are fighting with the Royals for second again. They have the Guardians on here going 77 and 85. That's ridiculous.
Can we talk about how wild the swing is between the AL Central? Because obviously we saw the White Sox as the worst team or one of the worst teams in baseball history last year. And it has them getting 22 games better. There's no way in hell they're getting 22 games better this year. They're not winning 22 more games.
Yeah, no.
If you told me right now that the White Sox would win 63 games, I would probably slap you. There's no way that's happening. They're not winning 63 games. They're going to be lucky to win 36 games. They did nothing to get better. They got rid of their ace. They got prospects that are position players that aren't quite ready yet. Now, also, I don't understand how they have the Guardians getting 15 games worse. How do you get 15 games worse? They didn't. Okay, now granted, they didn't do anything to get any better, but they really didn't do anything to get any worse. So I'm not.
They re-signed Shane Bieber.
Yeah,
coming off of an injury here.
They didn't do anything to really get, but they didn't lose anything either. Besides,
exactly.
So I don't really understand that. Okay, but let me say this though. It's interesting that they have the Twins technically winning the division with 83 wins because the Twins have some of the best talent in the division between Correa and Royce Lewis. If Correa and Royce Lewis can give them 140 games along with Matt Wallner, that's a very potent three in the lineup, and that's probably better than any three on any other team in the division.
Yes.
So I just don't know what the rest of the Twins, how their rotation is going to turn out, how their bullpen is going to turn out. But if we're talking about those three guys give you 140 plus games, I actually like the Twins' odds to win that division. But me personally, I like the Tigers' rotation to win that division between Skubal, Flaherty, Jackson Jobe. I just sent y'all a post from Pitching Ninja on his gas that he was throwing. So I like those three for sure. Oh, and I'm sorry, Reese Olson too. Sorry, forgot about that one. So that is a very solid top four. So I will take that with an improved Riley Green and Kerry Carpenter and and I'm sorry, Gleyber Torres as well. So I will take those. And then your young guys that they've got one more year of experience under their belt at the big league level. So I'm taking the Tigers. Now, I'm not saying they're going to win more than maybe 85 to 87 games. I've got your Tigers winning the division, Nathan. I don't know. What do you think, Joe?
I mean, I agree. I mean, not the Rangers. The the
Wrong division.
Tigers. Yeah, I was just looking at something about the Rangers and it just came out of my mouth. No, I mean the Tigers proved that they are a scrappy team. Especially with the way that they finished last year after the All-Star break, going on that absolute insanity run. Now I've been asking Nate, can they replicate last year's season? Not with that Linsanity run, but just, you know, the last half of the year, they were very consistent. Can they continue to be consistent on the field? They were a very young group of players last year, led by a very seasoned manager in AJ Hinch, that has a ton of postseason experience, and they now have postseason experience under him. Can they go out there, um, you know, as the gritty Tigs again, and just continue to dominate the way that they did, at the back half of last year. Now I will say that you're absolutely right, Kirby. The Twins do have a very they have the best talent in the division by no doubt. But can they put it together? Can they stay healthy? Can Carlos Correa play 140 games? 150 games? Can he stay healthy for that long? Can Royce Lewis and can Byron Buxton? I mean, honestly, that is a very potent top three of your lineup right there. But it just they have to be playing for them to be potent. So it all comes down to injuries for them, because I mean they're usually in the mix. It always comes apart when they deal with injuries. But a sleeper team that I'm really interested in is the Royals. I mean they're pitching with Cole Reagans, at the top. They've got a really strong rotation, and their offense is sneaky with Pasquantino and Perez heading up their lineup. I mean they've got some pop, and they have speed, and they always usually play some very solid defense as well. So I see them as the sleeper winner of the division, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Tigers came out, especially with AJ Hinch at the helm.
I agree. Well, and one thing that I think is interesting about the AL Central is the AL Central has some really good managers, between Hinch, Stephen Vogt. Both of those guys are phenomenal managers, and they're going to bring the best out of whatever talent that they have. Gentlemen, do we have any final thoughts on how we think that division is going to turn out? Me and Nathan both have the Tigers. Joe, are you sticking with your pick?
I will say I think the Tigers will win the division, but I would not put it past the Royals either. So
okay, Joe, you're our resident AL West fan. I am going to let you take the helm here on how you think the AL West is going to shake out, because I think this also is going to be a dogfight.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. MLB and Fangraphs basically have almost a three-way tie for the AL West as it currently stands. Now they're not expecting any team to be, pretty good. They're all 85 or 84 win teams, so they're not expecting, the AL East 92, 94, win range. I have a hard time with this because I'm trying not to be the biased Astros guy, but they're predicting the Rangers to have an 8-game swing, an 8-game swing, winning 85 games this year, after only winning 78 last year. They're basically flipping their record. I just have a hard time believing that Nathan Eovaldi coming back from injury and Jacob deGrom coming off of his second Tommy John surgery is going to, make their pitching that significantly better. Now, they did make some good moves adding Jake Berger and Jock Peterson over the offseason, but their lineup wasn't the problem. It was their pitching. That's been their problem, and I don't think that they did a good enough job addressing it. I mean, their they're doing addition by like coming off of injury for Jacob deGrom, but they also lost Max Scherzer over the offseason, who signed with the Blue Jays. So, I mean, I really don't know what their rotation is going to look like. I'm sure that they've got some guys lined up in the minors that they're probably excited about. But as of right now, I just don't see I don't see them being that good. I don't understand how these projections come out and how they believe that the Rangers are going to swing 7 games when they were coming off of a World Series and they weren't even able to go above 500. So, I find that very interesting. They have the Mariners and Astros in a virtual tie. They both have the same record, but they are giving the edge to the Mariners in these standings.
Yep.
Both are 84 and 78. But they have the Mariners with a higher run differential, which LOL because the Mariners offense is awful. Now that run differential could either be because their offense is better than the Astros, or the Astros pitching just absolutely let them down, and the Mariners pitching just absolutely did not let teams score on them. But again, those predictions are kind of wild. I do think that the Astros got a little bit better. I've liked what I've seen so far from the additions of Christian Walker and Isaac Paredes. And again, I know it's spring training. Things change when the regular season starts, but I like what I see out of both Christian Walker and Isaac. And then since Yiner has shored up the catching position, I do think that Jesus Christ, what's our backup catcher?
Victor Caratini.
Victor Caratini, yeah. I think that
Caratini.
having him on the bench and John Singleton, who I think will make the roster, is going to be huge for this team, and in the way that they can be versatile in the late innings with different pinch hitting situations. If Chaz can regress towards the mean after having a career worst year last year, an absolute anomaly compared to his career numbers. If he can just regress even a little bit back to the player that he was before, I think that the Astros, there's no reason why they shouldn't be favorites to win the division, which is why I find this a little baffling. Now, don't get me wrong, the Mariners pitching is amazing, but pitching can only carry you so far if your offense can't score runs.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the Mariners historically just have not had a good offense with this core that they have at T-Mobile Park. I mean, they just can't hit at home, and they play 82 games at home. I mean, you have to be able to hit there. It does you no good if your pitching is only giving up 1 run, but you're losing 2-1. It doesn't matter. Your pitching can only carry you so far, like I said. So, that along with the fact that the Astros will, hopefully be getting healthy, a healthier rotation. Now, right now, the Astros rotation looks to be, Framber Valdez, Hunter Brown, Spencer Arrighetti, Ronel Blanco, and then Hayden Wesneski. But, Lance McCullers should only be out for about a month, and then you see him slot in, and depending on how he looks in his rehab starts in Sugarland, maybe he slots in at the 3 or the 4. Moving Hayden or Ronell back into the bullpen, giving the bullpen a little bit more depth, and then you get Luis Garcia back, and then you hopefully get Christian Javier back near or after the All-Star break, and maybe they use Javier strictly as a reliever once he comes back, because they know that he can also thrive in that role, but also limit his innings because he is coming off of Tommy John. I mean, you also have JP France somewhere in there as well. So while the Astros bullpen doesn't look great right now, I couldn't even tell you who's making it out of the bullpen, especially with Caleb Ort down, who was slotting to, be a sixth or seventh inning guy for us. I'm having a really hard time putting together the Astros bullpen at the moment, but they will figure it out, especially when you have two guys like Brian Abreu and Josh Hader, and then hopefully Taylor Scott can kind of recreate the magic that he had last year. I mean, that's a pretty good 3-man setup, but the Astros don't have that much depth. Now, I will say we've been saying it for the last 4 years, but I also agree with a lot of people that have been around the Astros camp, and after seeing his first appearance in spring training, I think that Forrest Whitley is going to make a big impact on this team this year. I know we've been saying it for like what it feels like 5 years at this point, but just the vibes that he's giving off right now and the way his stuff looked after that first outing, I think that he's going to play a major role on this team this year. And I think, he will be a reason that the Astros could potentially win the division if the cards fall right for him. That's the pitching side. Now, offensively, I think Altuve is going to be Altuve. Jordan is going to be Jordan. I'm excited to see Isak Paredes play with the Crawford boxes. He's already crushed a home run. Holy Jesus, he pulled the hands in. I mean, he's going to be special with those Crawford boxes. Yainer Diaz is going to be Yainer. He's also hit a home run in spring training. I look to see Jeremy Pena again be able to lift the ball off the ground because we know that power is there. He had 25 home runs as a rookie. But I think last year he got a little too caught up in, trying to hit for average. I think he changed his approach because he was worried about striking out too much, which, I agree that was a problem. But if he can put it together and if he can combine the power with the plate discipline, I think, we can see some magic from him. Now, if we don't, Cam Smith, I'm just saying, Cam Smith, he has looked amazing so far this spring training. And again, I know it's spring training. He has, I think, less than 150 pro league at bats under him because he was drafted last season. But Dana Brown is not afraid to promote a guy if he is worthy of a promotion. And so far, Cam Smith has been playing like a man on a mission. Dana Brown called him an aircraft carrier. I don't know if he was referring to the way that he's built or the fact that he could carry a franchise, but if he was referring to the fact that he could carry a franchise, I see it right now. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to make the team out of camp because I do think that the Astros do want him to see, minor league at-bats still, get everyday playing time because, the Astros aren't going to come out of camp with him, with a starting position on opening day unless he goes, 45 for 50 in the rest of his at-bats during spring. It's just not happening. But he had an interview with MLB Network earlier today released, and he says that he's determined to play on the infield. Now, he even mentioned that he grew up as a shortstop. So if Jeremy Pena doesn't learn how to lift the ball, and Isak is playing good defensively at third base, I'm just saying I think we could see Jeremy Pena either get moved near the trade deadline to open up a spot, or the most likely thing is they're going to just slot him into the outfield if one of Chaz or Jake are struggling. And in the ideal world, it would be Chaz to center, Cam Smith, if he continues to play well, to right, Jose Altuve in left, and then Mauricio Dubon, I guess, at second base. I don't know. I don't like that, which is kind of why I've almost been on board with the Nolan Arenado trade at this point, because that would give Isak Paredes a chance to slide over to second, Nolan at third, Cam Smith in right field once his time comes. I don't even worry about Jeremy Pena at that point. But anyhow, the Astros offense, I think, could shape up to look really good if Cam Smith works out and if he's promoted to the big leagues and obviously keeps hitting the way that he's been hitting so far. So that's why I have the Astros. I do have them winning the division, getting back on track. I think that the Athletics could potentially come in third. I honestly think that they had a better offseason
They were
than the
the best
Rangers.
team in the whole division.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that the Athletics could absolutely finish either second or third. Like if the Mariners can continue to not hit at T-Mobile, and if the Rangers pitching continues to fail them, I think that the Athletics are almost one of the most well-rounded teams. You have uh, Mason Miller, who absolutely destroys people at the end of games. I mean, it's just if they can get to the ninth inning with a lead, the game. I mean, they could win a lot of games. So I look at them and I find them to be a sleeper. I think the Angels, they Fangraphs has this right. I think the Angels will finish last in the division. I will be looking to see Yusei Kikuchi probably moved at the trade deadline to get prospects back. But yeah, I mean, it's just and Jorge Soler as well. I would not be surprised if either of them get moved at the deadline. So yeah, I have the Astros finishing in first, the Mariners in second. I will say I'm confident the Athletics will at least finish third, and then I have the Rangers and Angels for my AL West predictions.
Well, I think you made some interesting points, Joe, but I think we're going to disagree on some things. Obviously, I think that there's three teams that could win the division between the Mariners, the Astros, and the Rangers, all of which are going to be health pending. Because if you see the stars go down for each of these teams, all of a sudden their season goes to crap real quick. The best lineup in the division is probably the Rangers, probably top to bottom. However, if you see some regression or some basically age regression from guys like Seager and Simeon, all of a sudden the Rangers aren't that great. Now, I have a trivia question for y'all before I continue on. Can you name or can you tell me how many guys started a game for the Mariners last year without looking? How many guys started a game for the Mariners last year? How many starters did they use?
Six.
What do you think, Nathan?
Oh, give me 7.
So technically, they had 7 people start games, but one of those guys only started one game. So really, they had 6 guys start games.
Oh, so he's an opener. Okay.
If that isn't '90s Braves model in a nutshell, I don't know what is. Those guys are horses down there in Seattle. There's not enough good things you can really say about their rotation. However, their offense is putrid. Their offense, they are literally probably in the bottom third, if not the bottom 10% or 15% of the league in their offense. Their offense sucks. And they did nothing to fix it. Nor does their playing environment help them. They play in the Pacific Northwest where it's cold at the beginning of the year. The ball doesn't fly well there. And yeah, it's extremely difficult to hit there. And they didn't do anything to fix it. Well, why didn't they do anything to fix it? Gee, I don't know. Probably because the rest of the division is already not that great. So what's the incentive to spend money when the rest of the division is not outstanding like maybe the AL East is or the NL East or anything like that? So I don't know that when I'm looking at Fangraphs, while I don't agree that the Rangers are gonna flip their record and win another 7 or 8 games. I mean, are we talking about right now on opening day? Are the Astros better this year than they were last year? Probably not. But throughout the season, if you see guys like Isaac Paredes play really well, if you see Jose Altuve really thrive out in left field, and let's say at the All-Star break they've had enough with Jake Myers and with his WRC plus of 68, and they give Cam Smith the keys to play right field, you can see a scenario where the Astros actually look really good again on paper. I don't know if I've told you guys this or not, but Chipper Jones would always tell Austin Riley, that he needed to change his sights when he was hitting, and that when his swing was right, he would be hitting things dead center or to right center. Well, if you watched the Astros game the other day, where did you see Cam Smith hit both of his home runs? One went dead center, one went right center. His swing is impressive, and it's powerful. That dude is going to hit balls out of every ballpark. He is a freaking specimen up there. He is a massive dude. I think he is definitely going to be playing right field for the Astros by the All-Star break. I think you could slot him into the 5 or 6 spot in that order. And I just, guys, I have a lot of confidence in his ability to play. He's a really athletic guy. I think he's going to give you good at bats. Honestly, he reminds me of Correa, but thicker, because of his approach and his swing and just all of those things. So I'm very high on Cam Smith. I think the Astros won that trade already, just for getting him back. So I think overall, I'm gonna go with the Astros to win that division. Once again, I don't know that any team in that division wins more than maybe 88 to 89 games. But until somebody proves me different, I'm gonna go with the Astros. Especially considering the Mariners did nothing to get better on their offensive side. The Rangers still don't really have any healthy pitching, besides maybe Nathan Uvalde, who's on the wrong side of 35. So, with that being said, I'm going to go with the Astros. Now, I'm not saying the Astros are going to make it past the first round of the postseason, but I'm going to go with them to win that division. So, I don't know. What do you think, Nathan?
It's hard to. It's really hard to make a decision here. I am going to just give a blank answer right now, just point blank. I'm gonna say the Rangers. And what I will say is I do not think it's going to be easy by any means.
Mm-mm.
I think it's going to be a dogfight. I think, like the AL Central, it's going to be a very close fight between the top 3 teams. But the other things that interest me here is that they have the A's getting a lot better, which in the offseason they made a lot of good moves.
Mm-hmm.
The Angels are my sleeper team. Mike Trout is back. Soler is on the team. Taylor Ward is another year down. Joe's over there laughing.
Hey, I don't disagree with you, Nathan. I don't disagree at all.
Listen, I told Joe the other day, I watched the spring training game against who was it? It was a National League team, but I had their game on and I was watching. I saw Trout walk. He had a really good at bat. They got another guy on behind Trout. He advanced. They had first and third. Soler came up to that plate and he absolutely destroyed the baseball that he saw. Absolutely destroyed. So I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that the Angels could put it together and have a really good year and have close and important wins with some of these teams. So at the end, I don't think it's necessarily going to be an easy win for the Rangers, but I think they will be there. It might be one game, it might be half a game, because God knows what happens with the weather in the year. But I think, to me, it'll be the Rangers.
I'm actually glad that you brought the Angels up, Nathan, because of their additions between Kikuchi, Soler, Travis d'Arnaud. Not to mention their coaching staff is fantastic. And they went out and got Kenley Jansen as well. So overall, they actually had a good offseason.
Yep.
Now, problem is that a lot of those guys are on the wrong side of 30. So they're old. They're a very old team. Let me say that to start. But once again, it's just like with the Twins. If you can get 140 games out of like 5 or 6 of their position players, including Trout, their offense is good. Between Soler and Trout and d'Arnaud and Taylor Ward, and if Joe Adell could
Neto, Joe Adell, yeah.
Did I forget Zach Neto? Yes.
Yeah, he's just
Joe,
sitting
if
there.
Joe Adele
He's
could
in the
ever put it
background.
together and be the first round, pick that all Angels fans were really hoping for 5 or 6 years ago, there is a path for the Angels to actually be decent. Now, granted, their pitching staff is not great. Their rotation overall is not great. Their bullpen's not great.
No.
But if their lineup is healthy, their lineup can swing it. So I'm very interested to see how their season goes. Quite frankly, I don't really care how their season goes. I just want to see Mike Trout healthy. I want to see Mike Trout playing
Yeah.
140 games. I want to see him put up another 6 to 8 WAR season. I feel like the injuries and his unwillingness to move to right field 4 or 5 years ago when Joe Madden was the manager really hurt him. So I'm really interested to see how it goes. They've got a great coaching staff between Ron Washington and Eric Young, and it's going to be interesting for sure. Going to be interesting. I think the AL West is going to be a very tough division too.
Yeah, and they have other guys too there that we're not even mentioning. Ben Joyce has got another year under his belt.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute flamethrower. He's all over the news right now saying he wants to hit 107 this year. They got a whole bunch of other old dudes, like you said, on the wrong side of 30. I mean, they just got Estevez. They have Carson Fulmer. They have Hunter Strickland. I mean, famous for being on the losing end of a Bryce Harper brawl. Matt Moore was good for a whole maybe half of a season 5 years ago. And I really want to see what Reed Detmers could do. Reed Detmers came out of the minors through the no-no and was a solid dude. And he stunk it up last year. So these guys are really just they're just a mindset change away from being actually solid team.
So while we're on the topic of solid teams, is anybody bold enough to tell me who they believe is going to win the American League and play in the World Series this year? Is anybody ready to make that prediction right now? That you're ready to say, this team right here.
Detroit.
All right. Detroit, Nathan. Go ahead. Joe, who is representing the American League in the 2025 World Series?
I'm going to hate saying it, but, I think Alex Bregman isn't missing a postseason, and I don't think he's missing a World Series. I think the Red Sox might be going to the World Series representing the AL this year. I think that they find a way to put it together if they stay healthy with their offense and, the additions they made this year with their pitching. I think that they could potentially win it all in the AL.
I'm going to agree.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah, honestly, I agree with Joe too. I think they made the most. They made all of the right moves. They made good moves, and yeah, I guess it comes down to how the team performs overall. I mean, last year, I personally thought that had the Tigers got past the Guardians, that they could have been in the World Series against the Dodgers. I think we had a better matchup than the Yankees did with the Guardians. But yeah, this year, I think if the Tigers are in the same spot, I think the Red Sox are just plowing everyone down.
I think the most underrated part of the Red Sox is this right here, gentlemen. First of all, they're a very solid squad to begin with, and they've made a lot of good moves this offseason. However, they have something that most American League teams don't have, and that's fantastic prospects. If they need to go make a move at the deadline for a starter or a position player or a bullpen piece, whatever they need to do, they have the pieces to go get it. Now, whether they want to use Marcelo Mayer or Christian Campbell or Roman Anthony or any of those guys is up to them. However, they have the pieces to make whatever move they need to get done. So if they want to go out and get Jack Flaherty at the deadline, Nathan, if the Tigers season goes to crap, they can go get him. If they want to trade for Framber Valdez from the Astros, if their season goes to crap, guess what? They can make those moves because they have the pieces. So I am very high on the Red Sox, and the Red Sox are going to play in the 2025 World Series.
sad.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't argue. I do think it helps them that, as we've mentioned time and time again, that the Yankees just got significantly worse without Juan Soto, and they have major lineup depth
Their lineup
questions.
blows. And Stanton's hurt.
So I mean, yeah, that helps, and then the fact that the Astros, probably might be mid this year. I mean, I'm gonna keep it real. I have zero expectations for this team because I mean, I know I just went on a whole 10-minute rant about how I think that they could be good, but I can wish in one hand and have it all blown away in another. I mean, it could all fall apart for the Astros. They could have one of their worst seasons in the last 10 years. It they're just not the juggernaut that they have been, and they don't have what Boston has in a good farm system to go get somebody at the deadline if they need to. It could be, you could be seeing Bryce Matthews up at the deadline if he continues to hit as well. Maybe slotting in at second base, and Cam Smith in right field by the All-Star break. I mean, who knows? The Astros could be that bad. I mean, they could, if you're trouting out Mauricio Dubon or Brendan Rodgers or who's the other guy that's been getting run at second base for the Astros? He used to be a Met.
Zach Short. Yeah, Luis.
No, not Zach Short. Yes, Luis Guillorme. If they're running one of those three out there by the deadline, I mean, you can see Bryce Matthews being your everyday starting second baseman. I mean, who knows? Because I think that they are so serious about Jose Altuve in left field that that will be his everyday position. So it'll be interesting to see. And I don't really know if anybody else matches up that well against the Red Sox, considering all things considered. So we'll see. But that's my prediction. I think the Red Sox go to the World Series representing the AL this year.
I agree. Well, gentlemen, is there anything else you want to say before we close our American League preview? All right. Well, thank you.
I think that's it.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight. We do appreciate it. If you have not already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Throwing Partners Podcast. And also remember, too, that we are on Apple Podcasts. So whether you're at the gym or on your way to work, feel free to tune in anytime that you'd like. And please leave us a 5-star review on there. That really helps the show as well. So thank you, everybody, once again, for the support. We really appreciate it. Those views keep going up. And that just makes me happy because this is something that we all love doing. So thanks again, everyone. We appreciate it.